Let's talk negotiations today. So, I was asked to weigh in on what negotiations mean to me. What does that term mean? And I have to say that I've come a long way in my thinking and my understanding of what my role is in a negotiation. So, when I started negotiations, I'd say I'm into my ninth year of negotiations because I started buying. Um, I started in a buyer role when I was back in 2015. So it was something that was super, super intimidating to me. I just felt like I wasn't prepared to handle any conflict, any disputes. And now, almost a decade later, I'm just like, cool, bring it on. So I'm not saying that my experiences have been easy. I've oftentimes been in very protracted negotiations, and there are certain things that have been sticking points for quite some time, presented real hurdles and challenges to coming to mutual agreement. But that's exactly my point. Negotiations they've been some of the best learning experiences of my entire career. I actually now look forward to negotiations more than anything. And here's why. Negotiations, wow, how many times am I going to say that word? um, Negotiations, I find it's a really great opportunity to find out how a working relationship can work. So you may be having discussions with an incumbent. So you're looking for ways to um, pinpoint and improve upon items that maybe didn't work so well in the last contract. Of course, in public sector though, it's a bit more difficult to do that just simply because you can't really there is incumbent advantage and fairness and all that to take into consideration. But I think one would agree that it is not also a bad thing to look at what your existing relationship may be, especially if this particular vendor is about to be awarded a contract for the same thing. It's also a great negotiation tactic when you can turn around and say, well, you know what, you did agree to this before, or this was our position before, and here's how we evolved. So the negotiations and the strategy and the discussions surrounding this part of the procurement process is a fantastic way to set the tone on the upcoming working relationship, to understand very clearly how a supplier is going to be managed, how a contract is going to be managed. Negotiations are really great for not only identifying but ensuring gaps are filled, particularly those in contract management or those areas where an organization may not have as much risk tolerance. So for myself as a procurement professional, what I've also learned is that the less I say, the better. I think that's a mark of a really successful negotiation. When the less I say, the more I know that the whole process is going successfully, because I'm not sitting there going, well, this is out of scope, or I'm not having to remind people of, hey, your price can't go up, that sort of thing. So I think that negotiations have been a piece of the process that have really also allowed me to hone in on what aspects of my career I'd like to develop yet. I really love strategy, and having these discussions between the vendor and your organization is a great way to understand how to formulate a strategy for something else, or even how to formulate a strategy to set the right type of tone in the discussion. I could go on and on and on. So I don't really have experience too much for negotiating in the public sector. Not for procurements anyway, that's a different story entirely. But for public sector procurements, I do find that it is something that I really encourage to working professionals and those who are looking to advance their career to approach with more of an open mind. Don't look at it as I'm going to be firm in my position. A negotiation is about coming to an agreement on something, having, a very calm dispute resolution and settling differences before it becomes a real issue, and to understand how to mitigate risk. So I encourage you to take the opportunity as well to not only look forward to larger scale negotiations where, the teams may be larger, the scope may be huge, the dollar value might be huge. Some of the more tricky negotiations in my experience have been the lower dollar value ones. And the devil has been really in the details of how to draft. Another thing that I have learned when it comes to a negotiation is that, how things can take a spin when you're having discussions on agreements that are, either favorable to the vendor, which is known as vendor paper, if it's on their form of agreement, or if it's like on our paper. That is something that adds like another spin, because of course whoever presents the form of agreement is usually the one that tends to have things work in their favor. But all in all, like I said before, I think negotiations is not something to be feared. It should be something that we should look forward to, because it's also an opportunity for a procurement professional to see the other side of things. We're so used to only being present for the procurement process and any issues that might come up in the contract management phase and supplier relation management phase. So it gives us a little taste of what's to come. So hopefully that's helpful to you.